so proudly we hailed, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say just that star-spangled banner, yeah, wave for the land under the fray, and the home of the brave.
Don't be afraid, this is a low fat, and you are listening to HonestAnswerRadio.com. Now, where is the egg roll you guys promised me?
The views and opinions expressed on the Honest Answer Radio show are the opinions of Honest Answer Media and no one else. If you're hearing a syndicated broadcast of this show, don't hold it against the broadcaster. Rather, congratulate them on their openness, tolerance, and respect for the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. Thank you very much.
You don't have to get high to get happy. Think about what's in store. When people start doing what they ought to be doing, then we won't be booing no more. When the president goes through the White House door, does what he says he'll do, we'll all be drinking free bubble up, eating some rainbow stew. Eating rainbow stew in a silver spoon underneath that sky blue. We'll all be drinking some free bubble up, eating a rainbow stew. Once more.
And welcome one more time to Honest Answer Radio here on HonestAnswerRadio.com, where we're kicking the mainstream media in the teeth every chance we get. If this is your first time listening to us, I'm going to be the Marty half of your dynamic hosting duo this Tuesday evening.
And on the Tuesday evening version of Honest Answer Radio, I will be the Casey half of this show. And man, I got to tell you, ordinarily we start out mad at Democrats. But here lately, we've started out most of these shows kind of mad at Republicans, and I don't think this one's going to be much different.
No, there ain't much changed in that over the past few weeks. I saw an article, I believe it was like Friday or Saturday, where Glenn Beck was, he had told on his radio show about a conversation he had with one of the, what we would call the establishment Republicans that was wanting to come on his show and I guess explain their side of things. And Beck was telling him, sure, you can come on the show, but be prepared for a very hostile interview. He's got this whole defund the GOP campaign going, and they're starting to feel the crunch of that.
I saw that same piece, and Beck didn't pull any punches when he was talking to the guy and telling him, how everybody in the country is feeling right now about the GOP. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, we made signs. We sat around our kitchen table with our kids, and we made signs, and we marched, and
we've called your offices repeatedly.
Yeah, and we've done our part, and you used us until You didn't need us anymore. And then I think he said, you didn't stab us in the back. You stabbed us in the chest. You stabbed us in the side. You stabbed us in the eyes.
It's not even a case of being used and then cast aside. It was they have used people like the Tea Party and regular everyday Americans like us. They've used us, and it would have been better to cast us aside, but then they attacked.
Yes, they turned around and have attacked everybody that considers himself to be, a Tea Party supporter.
Pat Caddell, he's what they would call a Republican strategist, I guess, and a journalist. Pat Caddell was on Fox News Sunday this weekend, and he said that the establishment GOP secretly wants the IRS to continue targeting the Tea Party. And Rush Limbaugh even spoke about that himself. I've got a clip of that, as a matter of fact. And I believe Pat Caddell is dead on the money. I'm interested to know who this establishment GOP person was that Beck was talking to.
Well,
I got a feeling it's somebody like Mitch McConnell or maybe what's his name in Texas? Cornyn.
Well, see, the thing is what people are that whole defund the GOP hashtag on Twitter. That's what's making them nervous. They're like, "You're cutting our money off."
And I think that people, they're starting to feel not just the crunch from social media, but I honestly think that they're having trouble raising money.
Yeah, because people are looking at it and go, well, let's see, I can write a check and let Rents Priebus do something with it, or I can write it to Freedom Works or the Senate Conservatives Fund, and have them do something with it, and they're deciding on the latter.
Yeah.
They're not giving it to the Republican National Committee, and they darn sure won't get any of my money.
Here's the problem, though. I was talking about. I was telling you I did a survey. I filled out a survey for Freedom Works,
right?
And some of the questions on that survey dealt with a third party. And, how interested would I be in a third party? Did I think a third party would stand a chance? Is a third party the answer? The thing, first of all, there's more than three parties. There's already a third party and a fourth party. Do I think that we need another major political party in the mix? No, I don't. And that's where this becomes sort of a two-edged sword, defunding the GOP. On the one hand, I'm sick to death of the establishment Republicans. Just like the rest, there's a reason that, like people in Hollywood and a lot of other parts of the country bash the GOP as much as they do. Those old establishment guys, they have more than earned the hatred that a lot of people feel for them. But the alternative would be to support a Democrat. And I'm at this stage of the game with the agenda that the Democrats are trying to push. I just can't see me doing that either.
No, but when you see things like Homeland Security wants the ability to track your license plate, without a warrant, without suspecting you of anything.
Or that the federal government is interested in building a DNA database.
Now, where are the Republicans on this?
Yeah.
Quiet. They're silent.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tea Party being targeted by the IRS. Where's the GOP? They're quiet because, I agree with you. I think Rush Limbaugh is dead on the money.
Well, here's the clip. I'll go ahead and get the clip out of the way. Here's that clip of Rush.
GOP establishment wants the IRS to go after the Tea Party. Pat Caddell said yesterday on Fox News that the reason Republican leadership has not pushed for a higher level investigation of the IRS for targeting the Tea Party is because they want the IRS to go after the Tea Party. When you have 71% who want an investigation, 64% who believe it is a sign of corruption, including nearly a majority of Democrats, the reason is the establishment Republicans want the IRS to go after the Tea Party. Got it? They want them to go after the Tea Party because the Tea Parties are an outside threat to their power hold. And I'm telling you, the lobbying consultant class of the Republican Party, Republican leadership, who have been attacking the Tea Party and alienating them, they want the IRS to do this. That's why there hasn't been any establishment Republican pushback on the IRS. Almost safe to say the Republican establishment might be willing to lose a couple of elections if it meant getting rid of the Tea Party, because it's clear, folks, they don't want to win any elections the Tea Party can claim any credit for.
Okay. Now here's where things get kind of squirrely, though. Without Tea Party support, the Republicans would lose every election. This is what those establishment guys in that consultant class fail to realize. The Tea Party makes up a lot bigger portion of their voter base than they're willing to admit to themselves.
And, there's another thing, Marty. I've read a few things over the weekend about how when not progressives, but when liberals actually sit down with honest to God Tea Party folks, right, the average folks, right, out there, they're finding that a lot of the same interests converge.
Mm-hmm.
They find out that the Tea Party isn't that extreme right-wing bunch of whack jobs that the media has painted them out to be, and that some of the more, when liberals, not conservatives, but your old-fashioned liberals, the folks who are concerned about equal rights, when they sit down with Tea Party folks, they find, hey, these folks are actually for equal rights too, for everybody.
Right.
Not just, straight people or whatever, but,
to me, that's sort of where that third party would come into play, though, because
the deck is so stacked that, the legal deck,
right,
is so stacked against a third party because the Republicans and Democrats have had it their way for
forever,
over 200 years, essentially. Names have changed and stuff, but that power structure, the two-party system, is entrenched. And a third-party candidate, there are some states where they can't even get on a ballot.
Yeah.
Registered as a third party, so they have to go as independent. And again, there are some states where the deck is entirely stacked against them, states that they absolutely cannot win.
And this is the troubles that the Tea Party is having are a direct result of the media attention that they've been getting and the slant that a lot of those mainstream outlets have put on them and the way that they painted them.
Including Fox.
Yeah.
Because Fox has gone along with the mainstream media narrative of the Tea Party being a bunch of extremists.
Racist. That's how it started.
Yeah.
They were, just a bunch of toothless hicks they're just racist. They were against President Obama because he's black, and that was that.
Or that everybody in the Tea Party will co-sign everything that, say, Michelle Bachmann says.
Which couldn't be further from the truth.
Or Rick Santorum. I wouldn't vote for either one of them.
I saw you hit me to something yesterday, a bit on Anderson Cooper with Ted Nugent and Roseanne Barr. And at first, I didn't think it would, be something that I'd want to clip. But after watching that little segment, Roseanne Barr it gives out the typical argument against the Tea Party.
Right.
And Ted Nugent just slammed it right back in
Boy,
her
he
face.
tore her up on that. You got some of that audio?
I do. I didn't
it's
clip
beautiful.
the whole thing.
But we
but I got about 3 minutes of it. And 3 minutes, for a clip, 3 minutes is pretty long for us. But
this is Uncle Ted.
Well, it's not just because it's Uncle Ted. There's so much in this that is relevant and needs
important
to be heard. Yeah. Listen to this.
It is a cluster of politics right now, and that's why the Tea Party is so important. We're saying one simple thing: be accountable.
But the Tea Party is owned by the richest people in the world.
They are not. The Tea Party are welders and farmers.
No, they're not. It's
yes,
the Koch brothers.
I hang out with them. I hunted with some Tea Parties last week. They're carpenters. They're people that make a minimum wage.
Well, it's not their fault that they're being lied to and tricked. It's not their fault.
The Tea Party is about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights.
Telling rich people what they want to hear is not good for Americans.
That's not what the Tea Party is about at all. Not even close. You couldn't be more wrong about that. Tea Party is about working hard, playing hard, simple families going, be accountable. What are you doing with our money? Who said you can spend on that crap? Who said you can pay people to stay home? Who said you can pay people not productive? If you're not productive, you get no money.
Well, but this
How's that sound?
That sounds like you're blaming the victims. Sounds like you're blaming the poor
Victim,
people.
but victims are sleeping in?
Yeah, I think you're blaming the victim. I think it's just a big fat con, and you work for the richest guys in the world. All you Tea Party spokespeople, you work for the Koch brothers, and they're like billionaires.
I'm just a deer hunter. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, but you're working for the wrong people, brother.
I work for myself. All my buddies work for themselves. They work and they expect to have something left and not give it to people who didn't earn it. Real simple. Mao Zedong didn't work then. Mao Zedong isn't going to work today.
Didn't earn one damn thing. The guy's never worked an honest day in his life.
Who's this?
Dick Cheney. He's never worked an honest day in his life.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
Are you kidding me?
Give me Barack Obama's resume.
For their money?
Show me all his jobs that he's had. Show me a product that Barack Obama ever produced. Show me one.
Well,
time's up.
Well, actually, Ted, he did start actually working for the churches in South Side of Chicago.
So where's the product?
What's the product? The product is actually helping people. But to get back to what...
Thank you.
Chicago people don't look very helped to me. But it looks like a tragedy.
Well, you got.
Did he help Cabrini Green? Was that one of his projects?
You got to keep trying to help people. I mean,
yeah.
You can't. No, you need to try to help people by scolding them to help themselves. If you keep rewarding them for sleeping in, then they'll never get out of slavery. Why would you support slavery?
You're blaming the people at the bottom who have nothing whatsoever
I'm
to do with
blaming
it.
people who refuse to be productive.
The people who have the blame. Why don't you ever?
What do you want to blame the people who have jobs and produce things?
I want to blame the Koch brothers and the billionaires and all the people who robbed the taxpayers of this country. Absolutely.
The government is the one who's robbed the taxpayers of this country.
What would we do without government? Expect the rich people to take care of the poor? Are you crazy?
The rich people are the ones providing jobs.
No,
the government doesn't provide
squat. There are no jobs. There are no jobs.
Where there are jobs are rich people who put all their lives on the line to get creative.
Rich people don't pay squat, and it's proven.
It's proven because Roseanne says it's proven. It's the Tea Party is run by, first of all, Roseanne, it's the Koch brothers, not the Koch brothers.
What I want to know, where do you go to get some of that Koch brothers money? Because, man, I ain't got none of that stuff.
See, that is the typical talking point line that Roseanne is spitting. That's exactly what the media has painted them to be. That they're simply a bunch of pawns of the Koch brothers, which, by the way, for the record, the Koch brothers aren't exactly supportive of the Tea Party. As a matter of fact, the Koch brothers spent a huge chunk of money supporting those old establishment Republicans that everybody loves to hate that were in races against the Tea Party candidates. As a matter of fact, Koch brother money went to support the establishment Republican against Ted Cruz when Ted Cruz won his election.
So what exactly does Ted Cruz, a Tea Party favorite, what exactly does he owe the Koch brothers? A kick in the butt.
Yeah, nothing. See, they want to paint the Tea Party as everything that they're not. And no matter who is spouting it, be it Roseanne Barr or Brian Williams at NBC,
or Andrea Mitchell,
or Chris Matthews, or Rachel Maddow, or Bill Maher, no matter how they want to paint them, their arguments fall apart every time. The typical Tea Party member is a working mother or a working father who sits at home with magic markers and poster board. They make their signs, or they give, $5 here or $5 there to somebody like Freedom Works.
Dude, back when I was working in retail, I met a lot of Tea Party folks. Not a single one of them had a dime from the Koch brothers.
They're farmers.
They were farmers,
small business owners.
Yeah, they worked for the depot down here, the Anniston Army Depot.
Yeah.
Or they, they were veterans who could give a rip about anything that the Koch brothers want because they don't know them, never seen them, never met them, never took a dime from them. See, they were organizing on here, around in the local area because they believed in the TEA, taxed enough already.
You would think that the Republican Party would have embraced those Tea Partiers with all that they have, because
they talk about small government and low taxes until they actually get in office, and then they talk about what is it that Reince Priebus wanted again? Oh, well, let's just get that through. What was it that John Boehner wants again? Well, we'll just vote like John Boehner says. We'll just do that.
Yeah, listen, we can't go shutting down the government to try to stop some funding for Obamacare, because that might make the media upset and they'll say bad things about us, and people will believe them. We can't do that.
It'll make Mika Brzezinski cry.
Yeah. These are the Tea Party people. You would think, logically, you would think that the Republicans would have embraced them. And it is mind-boggling to see these old establishment guys stabbing these Tea Party folks in the back, denouncing them on the House and Senate floor, going on all these mainstream media Sunday shows, and belittling them at every chance they get, when these are the same people that could potentially cause a complete sweep in these 2014 elections. They could put a halt to the Democrat agenda if they would just let them.
Let me just give you an example here. You see what happens when Sarah Palin shows up somewhere. If you're going to have a political event and you invite Sarah Palin, look at what happens. Whether you like her or don't like her, the woman's got some serious charisma. And she draws a crowd. She motivates people.
But she's not drawing a crowd of people that hate her either.
No, she's drawing a crowd of people, a whole crowd of people who say, "That's right, Sarah."
The only people that really hate Sarah Palin are your mainstream media types.
That's right.
You're anybody in the Democrat Party and the old establishment GOPers who one of them, by the way, wanted her to be their vice president.
Look at how fast they run away from Sarah Palin when she could be handing them votes. These folks,
millions of votes.
But see, it's not about votes, Marty. They really don't. I think Rush Limbaugh is right about them, not really caring if they lose a couple of elections. They want...
It's the power.
It's the power structure there. Mm-hmm. That GOP, all that money, and it's not just the money that they get while they're in office. It's that whole, where's my golden parachute? When I get unelected...
Right.
I want a nice, cushy job at a conservative think tank where I don't even have to show up for work.
Or forget the whole unelected thing. My goodness, man, I just got here to the Senate, 8 years ago. Man, I don't want to leave the Senate. I don't want to leave the House. But see, those pesky old Tea Partiers, like somebody like Ted Cruz, they say things like term limits.
Yeah.
Or when it comes, well, where's the Tea Party proposal to fix health care? And they say things like tort reforms.
Free market.
Now, wait just a minute now.
Portability of insurance across state lines.
When you start talking about things like term limits and tort reforms, that's picking my pocket now. It's all like it's that whole power structure. These people, these old GOP establishment people, they're the ones that the Tea Party, they're the very ones that the Tea Party has spoken against.
And now, we're not letting Democrats off the hook on this, because that's why they're where they are too, folks.
Absolutely.
If you think the Koch brothers got some money, why don't you go out to Hollywood and look at the money out there?
But who's worse? Who's worse, Casey? The Democrats, who make no bones about their agenda, who stand proud to be Democrats and open their arms to any progressive willing to further their cause, even if they're a communist. They're still willing to support the Democrats. Open their arms. Look at some of these, like that Occupy movement. Mm-hmm. The Occupy movement opened themselves up to the unions.
People who would crap on a police car, literally.
Absolutely. Anybody that would come into, they're willing to allow 11 million illegal immigrants to have a vote, just so long as it helps their cause. Or, who's worse, those kinds of people, or the Republicans, those old establishment Republicans, who consider themselves and call themselves a conservative, who will stab their own people in the back. Who was a worse figure? The British redcoat or Benedict Arnold? Who do we look at with more scorn and disdain?
That's true. It's Benedict Arnold every time.
The redcoats were at least dyed-in-the-wool loyalists, man.
Can we start just calling him Benedict Boehner?
Well, you know what? We may as well. Jonathan Carl, he's been the one throwing, over there at ABC, he's been throwing Jay Carney all these curveballs here lately. This is what he had to say about Ted Cruz over the weekend.
And Ted Cruz does this thing. I mean, look, the Republicans in the Senate had this all set. This was going to be able to pass with only Democratic votes. He stands up, says, I'm going to filibuster. Suddenly they need 60 votes. I'll tell you, Ted Cruz is so hated among his Republicans now, more so than even during the shutdown, that at that Tuesday lunch they have every Tuesday, he's going to need a food taster. I mean, he gave tough votes for these guys to take. He
does have a high tolerance for personal pain inside of it.
Now, why would he need a food tester amongst his own party? Because Ted Cruz stands with the people, with the Tea Party. He's unashamed of his affiliation with the Tea Party and the American people.
He stands with the people of Texas that voted for him.
Exactly.
And because he told them, if you send me to Washington, I'm going to stand up for you. Now, people are shocked that once he got to Washington, he actually did what he said he would do. He's fulfilling his campaign promises to stand up against the establishment. And he is hated.
You know what?
Hated by the establishment for doing that very thing, even though that's what the people of Texas are paying him to do.
You know what Carl was talking about there, right at the beginning of the clip? This little, we was talking about it Thursday, this bill that went through the Senate, where they had the veterans...
The debt ceiling.
The debt ceiling, and then they had the veterans, restoring the veterans' benefits. Ted Cruz said, I will filibuster that before I will let you raise the debt ceiling. So the way they got around that, because they were freaking out, man. They were freaking out. The way they got those Republican votes to get that through was to make it a silent vote, to where no one would know who voted which way. No one would be able to tell. The people in the media wouldn't be able to tell which Republicans went along with the Democrats.
They had to get sneaky about it.
They had to. Because you got people like Ted Cruz that is not afraid to stand up for the values and principles that the people elected him into that office to represent. He's unashamed of that. And those old establishment guys absolutely hate that. You know, that there's a series on Netflix called House of Cards.
Mm-hmm.
And it is one of the, it's starting to get a whole lot of attention. It is about, life in the Beltway and how these congressmen and senators and presidents really handle politics. Man, it's nasty. It is some nasty, dirty business going on in this television show. And what makes it so successful is that it's real. They can paint it as a Hollywood, a Hollywood perception of it. But it's just nasty enough to be pretty close to the real thing. It's pretty close to the way business is really done there. And when you've got, they look at somebody like Ted Cruz as just being naive. That's just not the way things are done. We don't do politics that way once we're elected. That's what you tell those silly yokels that you're getting to vote for you. But you don't really do those things. Yeah, you do.
Or you should.
You should. It is infuriating to see the treatment that these Tea Party people are getting from their own side. People who are calling themselves conservatives, but voting like they're progressive. The Tea Party group, those people stand for courage.
Well,
but
they
the
stand
Republican
for not
Party
being
is not showing
afraid.
any.
They stand for not being afraid of what the mainstream media is going to say about you. Because you and I don't care.
No.
Okay. We want politicians who don't give a rip about what if it's going to make Andrea Mitchell cry.
See, and I don't understand that, man. I just don't get it.
When in this day and age, when you can fall back on the internet, if you're an elected politician like Ted Cruz,
Mm-hmm.
and get on Twitter and say, did you see what the mainstream media had to say about this? And have all the support. Have all these people writing to you and say, yeah, Ted, you tell them. Who needs Brian Williams?
Exactly. When somebody like Sarah Palin can draw, a crowd of... All right, here's a good example. Sarah Palin, like you said a while ago, she'll draw a crowd of thousands, right? You remember that broad, the birth control...
Sandra Fluck.
Sandra Fluck.
Media darling.
Oh, yeah. She was going... And, the mainstream press had her billed as, oh, man, she's standing up for her principles. She's unafraid. She is a woman of the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she gets all these speaking engagements lined up. They couldn't even get the cockroaches to show up to that thing. 3-4 people show up. And she's just standing there in an empty room speaking to nobody. But the mainstream press paints somebody like Sarah Palin to be one of the most hated women in America. Everybody hates Sarah Palin. She doesn't even have any sense. She has no clue about what's really happening in America. But let a town find out she's coming to speak.
She'll pack the place.
You won't be able to hold them all.
She can sell out venues everywhere she goes, because she does. She does sell out venues everywhere she goes with ordinary people.
That vote.
Not establishment Republicans, not the Koch brothers or Koch brothers, No, they're not the ones showing up. It's moms and dads and kids, and veterans.
Over half the people that show up to hear people like Sandra Fluck or that Elizabeth Warren or that broad down in Texas that's so happy about getting an abortion. Yeah, Wendy Davis. Over half of those people that are claiming to support her don't even vote.
No, and they're paid to be there anyway.
But they don't vote. They're not even voters. Where I would say at least just to be on the conservative side, 80% of the people that show up to hear Sarah Palin
cast a
or
vote
Ted Cruz,
every election.
Exactly.
They vote.
Why can the GOP not see this? Why is it so difficult for them to grasp the concept that these are the people that will help you win an election? These are not the people you want to stab in the back. People like John McCain and John Boehner, they're perfectly willing to stab their own constituents in the back as opposed to offending the Democrats who stand for everything that the Republicans and Tea Party people are against. It's mind-boggling, man. It makes no sense. But we've got some more stuff that we need to get into.
We want to talk about some regulatory issues? Are we there yet?
Well, if you go ahead, man.
Well, I think it came out
You wrote about it earlier.
Yeah, it came out over the weekend. I think it's 1,513 new regulations in 1 month's time frame. Essentially, a new regulation every 3 hours. Man, I kind of teased it in the blog. But look, okay, I can talk from personal experience. I don't have to approach sources. I am my own source when it comes to this. I worked in a regulatory environment. I worked for a food and feed laboratory. We were regulated by OSHA, the Food and Drug Administration, and the United States Department of Agriculture. All right? At least 30% of my day was spent on paperwork.
But what do all the,
And that paperwork was all stuff to prove that everything that I did in the other 70% of my time, everything that I did was in compliance with OSHA, with the FDA, and with the USDA. 30% of my time spent on regulatory issues. Now, I was actually working in the laboratory doing the test. But you know what? Our building maintenance guy, 30% of his time was paperwork. That's what I'm trying to get across here, is those hours could have been productive hours. But instead, they were work hours spent on compliance. That translates to dollars, folks.
Well, it's not just that. The reason for all these regulations, see, this is what happens when, a new regulation every 3 hours is what happens when you have a president that refuses to work with Congress,
right,
and chooses to govern with his pen and his phone.
But the thing is, the one thing he left out was his regulatory agencies. That huge, because actually the office of the president is a little tiny piece of the executive branch of government. It used to not be. It used to be a real big chunk of it. But now the executive branch is consumed with Department of Homeland Security, the Food and Drug Administration, the United States Department of Agriculture, United States Department of Energy, the Department of Transportation, Health and Human Services,
Environmental Protection Agency.
Environmental Protection Agency, the National Security Agency, the Central Intelligence Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Congressional Budget Office, the Office of the Inspector General. I could go on and
Bureau
on
of Labor and
on.
Statistics.
The Census Bureau. Okay? You get all of those regulatory agencies generating essentially law. Because when they put out a code, if the FDA puts out a new code in the Code of Federal Regulations, which is, it's not a one-volume book. It's multiple volumes these days. Okay? They put out a code. It has the force of law. You didn't get to vote on it, Marty.
I know.
Jeff Sessions didn't get to vote on that new code, that new law.
Nope.
Because look, if the EPA puts out a code and says this is how it shall be done, then if you're in a business that is affected by that code, you will comply, or they will show up at your building with padlocks and AR-15s.
Yep.
And body armor.
This is governing with a pen.
Mm-hmm.
This is not adhering to our system of checks and balances. And it's really frustrating for the average American or the small business owner in this country who is having to come into compliance with all these regulations to the point that it is choking some of these businesses right out of existence.
And not only that, but, and this is where we do have a gutless Congress. And, it's Jeff Sessions, too. I mean, sorry, Jeff, but there you go. Because, these federal agencies that put out these codes, okay, and these regulations, if they're going to have a major impact, as of 1996, Congress voted and said, okay, if this code or this regulation that you put out is going to have a major financial impact, you have to do a study on it and bring it to Congress.
Mm-hmm.
So where's Congress? Where are they? 1,513 new regulations. Where the heck is Congress? Why haven't they grabbed the EPA up by the throat and said, now wait just a minute. Did you run this past us? No.
They're not. No.
No, they took President's Day off.
Well, and look, now, to be fair, they are up to their eyeballs, or at least the House is up to their eyeballs in oversight committees dealing with things like the IRS targeting Tea Party. They're dealing with what happened in Benghazi. They're spending an inordinate amount of time trying to undo...
trying to get answers, excuse me, out of Eric Holder.
Yeah. And in the meantime, our president is governing by decree, if you will, and it pretty much leaves the American people out there flapping in the wind. But I was listening to Trey Gowdy. Greta Van Susteren was talking to Trey Gowdy about not so much about the regulatory issues, but about this governing by pen and phone and what can they do. And, if they're not going to be hauling the EPA in there and, on the carpet and saying, wait just a minute about these regulations, what can they do? And Gowdy's bringing up a good point about what they can do. It just really remains to be seen if they're going to have the courage to do it. This is what he had to say.
Good evening, Congressman. Can anything be done to stop President...
Excuse me, this wasn't Greta. This was Janine Pirro. My bad.
Yeah.
Obama's power grab?
Sure. I can think of 4 things right now. Number 1, my colleagues in the Senate have advice and consent. If they want to shut down the Senate over appropriations bills, I might shut it down over ambassadorships or other things. The Constitution gives them the power of advice and consent. The Constitution gives us power over the purse. So we have appropriations bills that are going to be coming through the House this spring. We ought to strip money away from this executive branch because our framers gave us that exclusive right to do so. If one branch overreaches, then maybe the other branch ought to stick up for itself. Thirdly, we can go to the judicial branch. We do have standing when it comes to vote nullification, which is what Obamacare is. You can go to the judicial branch and ask them to stop. But most importantly, we can go to your viewers, your voters. Almost 500 representatives are up every 2 years. Our framers did that on purpose. And we can say, you know what? You can fix it. You can fix executive overreach or legislative underreach by throwing them out.
Well, that's a beautiful dream there, Trey, that last part, as far as throwing them out of office. But where he's talking about these appropriations bills and cutting off funding, see, that's where you can do some serious damage to these regulatory agencies.
When you have a majority in that branch of the legislature.
That's right. But now remember what happened the last time they tried to choke off some of these appropriations bills. It was dealing with Obamacare, and Ted Cruz was willing to filibuster to try to get some of his colleagues to to come around and say, look, we're just going to cut off the funding to this. And they folded. His colleagues in the Senate folded. Trey Gowdy's colleagues in the House have been folding.
Mm-hmm.
But they could do something about it. They could start cutting off some of the money to people like the EPA.
Well, Trey Gowdy might want to get his own food taster.
They could cut out some of the funding to even the IRS. They could choke off some of these big regulatory agencies with their funding to the point that they just can't. You know, first of all, there won't be enough of them there to spend all of their time coming up with all these new regulations.
Or they won't have the people to enforce
it. That's right. That right there, that whole cutting off the funding to for their appropriations bills, that power of the purse is one of the biggest and best weapons that Congress has at its disposal. All they have to do is use it. But they're too busy trying to appear to the mainstream media as if they're compromising. They want to seem eager to compromise. You see all these, you know, the media loves to show polls. You know, that's like one of their big ticket items there. A recent poll shows they're too busy looking at these polls Oh, okay. Sorry about that. For some reason or another, we just lost our connection.
Sorry, folks. Live internet.
Yeah. Wow.
But anyway.
What I was saying was that power of the purse there is their biggest tool.
If the EPA has no money, they can't get in my way.
Yeah.
You know, if DHS has no money, they can't track license plates. They can't track your DNA because they won't have anybody in the office.
Bingo.
You know, all these things that are humongous government overreach and intrusion, the House of Representatives can stop it.
If they just would.
If they just would. But is John Boehner going to do that? No. He's going to compromise. He's going to try to make Andrea Mitchell smile.
Yeah.
He's going to try to make Brian Williams say something nice about him, about, oh, how cooperative. Or he wants Harry Reid to say, well, he's finally come to his senses.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, John Boehner, what the people who vote for you, what they want to see you doing is tell these people, no. No, you think I'm crazy now, just wait.
They want to see you have the courage of your conviction.
Actually, what we want is for them to have the courage of our convictions. We're the voters.
Bingo.
We're the ones who tell them what we want them to do. So you better get a little bit of that act right.
Yeah. Well, I've got one more little piece of audio tonight before we get off. And this one was kind of funny. Just listen. This is, by the way, from Kathleen Sebelius. And
I'll laugh a minute.
Yeah, you got to hear this.
There is absolutely no evidence, and every economist will tell you this, that there is any job loss related to the Affordable Care Act. Part-time positions are actually down since 2010, not up. The number of full-time workers continues to increase. So I know that that's a popular myth that continues to be repeated, but it just is not accurate.
You hear that? According to Kathleen Sebelius, there have been no jobs lost to Obamacare. And if you don't believe her, you can just ask any economist.
Every economist.
Every
she said
economist.
Every economist.
I guess Thomas Sowell was he sleep talking?
I don't, man. But see, now, correct me if I'm wrong. But now I thought last week you played a clip of Nancy Pelosi talking about how all these, how the Democrats were helping prevent job loss by getting people out of their jobs.
And Jay Carney, too.
And so which one is it, Marty? Are they losing jobs or are they not losing jobs?
I don't know.
You know what?
I'm in the dark here,
well,
man.
You know what? The point that I think we've reached? I think that the country is getting to this point where it doesn't matter what Nancy Pelosi says. It doesn't matter what Kathleen Sebelius says. You don't believe her.
No.
I don't believe them.
No.
Okay, the people over at our church, do you think they're believing any of this anymore? Don't you think that people are going, what they said, if we liked our health care, we could keep it.
I think the
and
people
they lied
who have,
about that.
I think the people who have lost their jobs as a direct result of Obamacare are having a pretty hard time believing them.
Or got their hours cut back.
Yeah. Did you hear that part, though, where she said part-time physicians are on the rise?
Uh-huh.
What are they doing the other part-time, or are they fry cooks? Part-time physicians? Where did that come from? We didn't have part-time positions before Obamacare came along.
No, she's position.
Oh, I thought she said physicians.
No,
sorry.
she meant part-time jobs. And
How is that helpful?
Well,
when the full-time positions are being cut, how are
Well, see,
if you go from full-time to part-time, does that help your bank account?
It didn't help mine. Again, I don't have to go and consult an expert on that.
You don't need an economist?
No, I can actually just look around, and I can talk to the people here in Calhoun County. I can talk to the people that I know on Facebook who live all over this country, and I can see the direct result.
Guys, we have got to get these people out of here. That is that last little thing that Trey Gowdy said a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's the answer. We have an election this very year.
Yes.
And don't forget that if in 2012, if 7 million registered Republican voters had just voted, we wouldn't be in this mess that we're in right now. We might be in another kind of mess, but we wouldn't necessarily be in this one.
Obamacare could have been defunded.
We would not have a president ruling with a pen and a phone, going around Congress.
The gutless punks in the House of Representatives and in the Senate wouldn't be dealing. They would have more gutless punks to give them some courage.
We might have had answers to Benghazi. We might have been able to have stopped the IRS targeting conservative groups. All it would have taken was 7 million registered Republican voters going to the voting booth. We can stop it. It'd be really, really simple for us to put the kibosh on the Democrat agenda. All we got to do is go vote.
You would have a bunch of useless Republicans in office. That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
But again, the gutless punks, they're a little bit more, they have more courage when they have more numbers.
Amen. Well, guys, we are at the end of our rainbow yet again. Don't forget to look down right below the player there on Honest Answer Radio's website, and you will see a little yellow button that says Donate. If you'd like to keep the Honest Answer coming to you on the regular,
please hit that Donate button and help us out, because like we've been saying for the last few weeks, look, our costs for bringing you this show, they've increased, but our paychecks have not.
And we ain't ashamed to say we wouldn't mind a little help. Also, look over there on our channels, the little channel button there on our website, and you will find two other radio shows brought to you by Honest Answer Radio. One of them is Sports World Radio, fastest hour in sports on the internet. Great show if you're into sports.
Great sports programming. And also, under that same little channels page, is a show called Challenge from the Heart with Pastor Rick Hope from First Baptist Church in Lillian, Texas, who, well, Pastor Rick isn't just going to introduce you to Jesus. If you already know Jesus, Pastor Rick can help you find ways to make Jesus a little bit more important in your life, to put more focus on being a better Christian, on walking a little bit closer with Jesus.
If more of us Christians spent more time concerned about our walk with the Lord, this country would not be having the vast majority of problems that we're dealing with right now. And I don't mean if non-Christians would come over. I mean if Christians would start
walking the walk.
Yes. And having the courage of our convictions and being willing to stand up for our Christian values that we know to be true. If we could just get back on the right track there, we could alleviate a great deal of the problems that we're going through right now. Also, don't forget another friend of the show, Going Beyond Radio. They don't just carry Honest Answer Radio. They've got all of your internet radio listening pleasures covered there. They've got shows on economics. They got shows on paranormal things, science, technology, you name it. Going Beyond Radio has got you covered.
And you can get goingbeyondradio.com on Shoutcast, Live 365, iTunes, Blueberry, Tuned In, Roku.
Man.
If you've got your a mobile phone, you can get goingbeyondradio.com.
Also, don't forget to go and take a look at our sponsors page. That's another way of helping Honest Answer Radio out by patronizing our sponsors. We've got really, really good quality things that we're offering here on our sponsors page. Lifelock.com, man, they can really keep an eye on your identity for you. I was in a store today and a young lady was on the phone with her credit card company or her bank. Somebody had gotten her credit card or her debit card, and she was having to report it stolen. She had just put gotten some money on her account for an attorney for something, and I could hear her telling this person about it. She was like, "And now it's gone." And she was pointing out all these places. I haven't ever been to Florida. So if she'd have had LifeLock, that would not have happened. And for less than $10 a month, if you go there by our website, you're going to get an additional discount.
Well, all of our sponsors, see, you can help us by visiting our sponsors, but you'll be helping yourself. It's our way of helping you, because if you go through our sponsors page and click on the sponsors there, then you get a deal.
That's right. Don't cheat yourself. Treat yourself.
Go visit our sponsors at honestanswerradio.com sponsors page.
Otherwise, let's see. I guess that's about it. This is Tuesday.
Yeah, it's Tuesday. So tomorrow's Wednesday, and we'll be back on the air again Thursday night. I can already tell you that the mainstream media is going to mess up and put their feet in their mouth, and the politicians are. So I think we'll probably have plenty of material to discuss Thursday night.
We will be right here to tell you all about their case of athlete's teeth. Well, otherwise, we're going to get out of here. I will close out tonight by reading something that I read a couple of weeks ago, but it is pertinent, and I can't think of a better way to end the show. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. We'll see you guys on Thursday.
Good night, y'all.